say hi for a second. Nick is also
Hi.
joining
Hi.
us.
Hi, it's Chris. Thank you.
Hello, Chris. Welcome.
It's really great if everybody just puts their name and email address if you want to be on our database going forward. If you're not on our EEPAN database yet. So we've been having the monthly webinars, but we're not sure who the newcomers are, and we could really, if you would like to receive the next month's webinar link and information, then please put your email address and your name in the chat so that we can add you. If you want to add your organization, that's fine. It's always nice to know why you are here, but we're very careful to let everybody know that it doesn't matter. You don't have to be the CEO. We just love having everybody on board because that's where the public awareness comes in.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm just picking up a message about my sound. I've got my headphones on, and I think I've got a bit of a dicky connection here. Is that clearer to everybody?
We hear you well. We hear you well.
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
Nick,
Okay.
we're starting to see more and more of your head, which is nice, and I'm hoping we'll see the whole face soon.
Nick, what about just letting us hear your voice, say hello, and then I think we're going to get started.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. If you can hear me, I'm trying to work out how this phone Zoom works. I'm not familiar with it, but please proceed. Thanks.
Okay, so we're very excited today. We've got a lovely lineup for our EEPAN September webinar. We welcome Margaret Berger and Cati Vawda and the WESSA youth, and we're going to have a lovely presentation. I think Margaret is going to put her screen up. And from EEPAN, which is the Environmental Education and Public Awareness Network, we would just like to welcome you hugely to this network and encourage you every month to just check in. It's usually the first Friday of the month. Margaret is representing WESSA for this presentation. We're going to learn about iNaturalist, the City Nature Challenge, the Great Southern BioBlitz, access and art. And the WESSA youth are going to be sharing a really exciting project that they've just been involved with called the Deep Dive. Margaret, should I hand over to you?
Thank you. I trust everyone can hear me. I've just switched off my camera, I suppose, because I'm sharing my screen. And I'm starting with our EEPAN beautiful logo that we're still very excited about having. And now you can see what EEPAN is. It's the Environmental Education and Public Awareness Network. And EEPAN just works so nicely that I've seen it coming up in quite a few documents or websites where people are referring to our network as one of the areas in which they are functioning and networking in respect of the environmental space. So welcome. I've just given a very short introduction into EEPAN, but it's quite a bit more complicated than that. But we're not going to spend too much time on explaining what EEPAN is, because we want to go straight into the topic for today, which is around iNaturalist, the City Nature Challenge, and the Great Southern BioBlitz, access and art. And my task today is to cover the first part of the agenda, which is iNaturalist, and how to get access to that. So our focus in the broader picture is very much about resilience in urban areas, and that's come from, I'm just closing my door, that resilience in respect of the climate change and being eThekwini, a coastal city, has come from the first bit of funding that we've had right at the beginning, which is now depleted, and we are still holding this critically important space around creating resilient futures, knowledge exchange, co-learning in various cultural spaces, and then in that way reducing risk, enhancing adaptation, and supporting sustainability through what we are doing in public awareness especially. I added in this slide, and I took it from one of the previous presentations because I just thought that we're doing quite well. We are keeping up our monthly webinars. We've had an awesome rhino dehorning webinar with Lawrence Anthony Earth Organization and Yvette Taylor. We've had Dr. Marlies Craig speak about climate change. And then Pandora said to me, but should we change today, 6th of September, volunteerism? And I said, no, we are all volunteers in this room. So from the WESSA youth to myself, to Cati, to Pandora, to Lucy, the people that are keeping this going, and we know well that volunteerism has its pitfalls, but it also has many possibilities. And we will see what October brings, but that is the topic that we brainstormed for October, greenwashing and the circular economy. So today, the combination is myself as the WESSA chair for KZN, Cati Vawda is online, and then some of the other members who are stalwart members are also online at the moment. And we're very grateful to be functioning today from Cape Town right through to eThekwini to Umkomaas and most likely elsewhere, because the Nature Journaling group is national and even global. And I just loved the way that Jenny had put together the slide for me, because it reflected very deeply a drawing of my own. And it's been the nature journaling space where I've gained confidence to be able to journal and reflect and draw and write. And those are, of course, our WESSA youth during the City Nature Challenge. And an important topic with iNaturalist and competitive events like the City Nature Challenge and the GSB is access. Who gets access, and how do we enable access so that people can stay in the game? And one of the ways that Cati will introduce you to through nature journaling is through art and beyond the usual. So Megan, who's online as well, has been finding all kinds of other spaces in which we are able to contribute to this bigger picture of public awareness and using iNaturalist. So for the Great Southern Bio Blitz, what we are doing is we're connecting the threads to dive deeper. You will see the presentation. To observe, record, reflect, share, co-learn, and explore together. But you have to get started somewhere. I always like the saying that if you want to win the lotto, you've got to buy a ticket. And if you want to join iNaturalist and be part of this community, you actually have to create a profile and you have to take part. In order to be able to create a project, you've got to have a few observations under the belt, not just 2 or 3. But the Great Southern Bio Blitz is so exciting when we see it's Botswana, it's Mozambique, South America, it's Australia. And the emphasis is on the Southern Hemisphere because this is our spring. The City Nature Challenge is April and May, which means that spring is in the Northern Hemisphere. So we've created the GSB to be able to put the sharing of our biodiversity at this spring, beginning of summer. So I've mentioned the observations which contribute to the biodiversity records, and SANBI is putting all of its data onto iNaturalist, so it's become a global platform. And I was in Germany a little while ago, and it has been such a pleasure to go back and see observations that I made in Berlin, because that was a walk with my son. So those are memories that you go back to, and you connect with other people in what I think iNaturalist is very much almost it's a Facebook or Instagram platform, but for people who are so passionate about the environment. The dates are 20 to 23 September, and that is the observation period. But after that, of course, you have the identification period, which enables a whole different group to also come on board. These are the goals. I'm a little bit worried about time, so I'm going to go through quite quickly. It is about connecting with people. For us, it's not just urban areas, but it's districts, and it's even the Ngonyama areas where we are getting more and more conservancies like KwaToyana, KwaTele, and also isiMahla. Recently, we entertained them at Vumbuka Nature Reserve. So what do we have? If you are joining for the Great Southern BioBlitz, please make sure that you do join. So there's a member, become a member of the group. It's only 58 at the moment. That's where you join. And you join this Southern Africa umbrella. But then you also join eThekwini if you are in eThekwini. Obviously, if you're in Cape Town, you would be joining the Cape Town local community in the Great Southern BioBlitz. So we've got 14, now it's probably 13 days to go. And the handles are there. It's exciting that it's in other languages. We've been talking under the Nature Journaling banner on how do we make it more accessible to other languages. So we've got an Afrikaans leaflet. We're talking about getting an isiZulu leaflet together so that more and more people can join in their mother tongue. This is our WESSA project. So within iNaturalist, you are able to create a project. But what is exciting is that, yes, it's only 24 out of the 800 members so far, but we've got almost 40,000 observations, and that's encouraging. What's the data that you see? The most observed species, who is on the platform, and then encouraging everybody to join in that way. And that's a personal project, just to show that you can do a garden project as well. Sankana Bradley has done an absolutely awesome one too. And then you can record with other visitors what is in your own space or your own backyard or your own nearby park. And then I just like this 5 for Friday. Make sure that you take 5 observations just to get started. Kick into the Great Southern BioBlitz. And I added the 2 photographs of the leopard my brain's just gone. And it is because, so the motive for adding in the photographs of the ground hornbill as well is because they are species that are threatened. And just to reassure you that on iNaturalist, what happens is that rare endangered species are not pinpointed in respect of their location. So you wouldn't endanger those species by putting them onto the iNaturalist platform. So I'm going to leave it there because we're going to go into the deep dive with our WESSA youth next, and we will be taking questions at the end. I've just got to stop share, and I will load the next presentation quickly. It's just loading. I just need to share my screen. We're going to hand over. You've got okay, youth leader. Sorry. And we've got Sibusisiwe Konto here, and then we've also got Melissa Nonjiko, whom some of you may know as part of our EEPAN team as well. And they have had an amazing experience recently. And I'm going to hand over to you, Siziwe, to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Hi, everyone. I'm Siziwe Hlongwa, as been introduced by Margaret. I'm sure most of you know us as WESSA Youth. So I'm with Melissa and Sibusi. So ours will be very short. Oh, firstly, I'm very excited to be here. Like being in EEPAN webinars always bring us pleasure, and it's a great platform for us to learn. So ours will be very short. We'll be just sharing about the experience, the incredible experience we had in July the 16th. So we went diving in the South Coast in Umkomaas. So we had an opportunity to attend a sponsored excursion by the Basin team, but it was sponsored by the Discovery PR agency. Okay, so as you can see, it was on the 16th of July. So 5 of us, WESSA Youth, we went to Aliwal Shoal in Umkomaas. So that's for those who do not know, Aliwal Shoal is in the south coast of KZN. So it was a sponsored excursion, and we were lucky to be to have that opportunity. So it was basically organized by the Basin PR agency for Discovery Channel. And the purpose for that excursion was to celebrate the Discovery Channel's Shark Week, which was taking place from the 14th to the 20th of July. So the Discovery Channel partnered with Zandile Ndlovu. I didn't know Zandile Ndlovu. I only met her there, but I didn't know that she was famous in this conservation space. So she is the free diving instructor. So she is basically, after that excursion, I had to go and search exactly who Zandile is. So I found out that she's the South African conservationist and the first Black female free diving instructor from the country. So she's also the director of Mermaid of the Black Mermaid Foundation. And that foundation specializes in exposing young girls of color to ocean spaces through snorkel excursions. So it was such an honor to meet her. So here are 5 of us. From the left, it's myself, and then Zuzile, and then the lady, young lady from the PR agency. She joined us as well. So it was her first time seeing the ocean, and also the first time to fly from Joburg to Durban. So it was quite first time for a lot of things for her, including us diving in the ocean. And then Zandile in the middle. And then we have Sibusi Siwe Chongo, and then Melissa, WESSA Youth, and then Tutukile as well. Next slide, please, Margaret.
The next one. Before heading to the ocean, can you see it? Siziwe? I think you're frozen.
Melissa, perhaps if you online, you could take over at this point, or is that you back again, Sizwe?
Yes, I'm back now.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I think it was network here.
I think it's the previous slide that we need to go back to, Margaret.
This one, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can run from the one room to the other. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, for us it was like first time. Like that day felt like, you know, when you experience a day that feels like a lot of days, like in one day. Like it feels like many days. So that was what was happening to us, because first time diving, first time seeing Zandile, first time like being in that space where we get to experience firsthand what diving feels like. So the first thing we did was welcoming registrations and then introductions to the Basin team there. And then Zandile conducted basic snorkeling, diving, which was like training, basic training for us to actually know, like get an insight of where we are going, like of what we are about to take part in. And then on our way to the diving area, I remember we sighted some marine species. Like even being in that scupper boat, it's brought different, like a very incredible feeling that is so inexplainable. Like we can't really get to express it, but we've tried through nature channeling, and yeah, we've tried through nature channeling to put our feelings on paper, to actually express all those feelings that we experienced that day. So we sighted some marine species on the way to the ocean, and then when we got there, we took turns getting inside the water. So there was one gentleman from the basin team who was helping Zandile to train us and to also give us instructions on getting into the ocean. And then it was like 1.5 hours, but it didn't feel like 1.5 hours. Like we didn't even see the time was passing, the way it was exciting, and the way we were so taken. Next slide, please. Oh, so in the photo, please go back a little bit, Margaret. Okay, so the discovery, when we were doing introductions and all, so they gave us the t-shirts and those hats. So it was very exciting to wear those, taking photos, and yeah. Okay, next slide, please. I'll hand it over to Sibusi for the highlights.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Susie, just as Susie has introduced me. So I'm gonna quickly go through the highlights of the day. So the first highlight, it was meeting Zandile. So she's like a very inspirational woman, and we got to hear her story of how she got into the sea diving, as well as becoming the first Black diving instructor. So that was very exciting and inspirational for us. And so the next highlights of the day, it was seeing the whales. That was the first sighting that we saw, seeing I think it was the humpback whales. We saw 2 of them, and they were jumping, diving, doing all of that. That was a special moment. And Sizwe, you will see later that Sizwe has journaled that. She has made a little cute sketch of that moment. It was so exciting. I think everyone was screaming. The excitement on the boat, it was so incredible. And then we also saw the sea turtles, the ancient marina. That was so exciting as well. And then when we got to the open ocean, well, we got to take turns diving into the ocean, and I was the first one to dive in after Zandile and the other guy went in. So I was like, I'm gonna go first. And in that moment, I remember I couldn't even remember what fear was because of the excitement that I felt in that moment. It just surpassed all my fear, the excitement. So yeah, when we were inside the ocean, and then we got to see the sharks, the red-tooth shark. That was the first sighting we saw, as well as the black-tooth sharks as well. That was exciting, as well as the diving instructor, Zandile, got to teach us a little bit how to deep dive, how to hold our breath, how to snorkel. That was also exciting. And the interesting part is that most of us didn't know how to swim before this day, but we were in the water just because of the excitement that we felt. There was no fear, basically. So yeah. Can you go to as you can see in this photo, we were just floating freely, diving. It was fun. So can you go to the next photo, please, Margaret? Okay. So I'm gonna hand it over to Melissa for the key takeaways. Thanks.
Are you there, Melissa?
I'm right here.
Okay, good.
Good everybody. My name is
You've got an echo.
Melissa.
Switch the others off.
Yeah, sorry about that. So I'm Melissa Nonchigo, also a part of the WESSA Youth, and I was also part of that exciting day. And I do have a few key takeaways that everybody shared that day. And one of the key takeaways from CCUA said that the, exposure to the environment through activities is an effective way of conserving these species. Sorry about that. Just can I have a moment? I can't really view everything. Okay, sorry about that. So yes, so CZUS says that that exposure to the environment through activities is an effective way of encouraging and an interesting way to ignite passion for conservation. So that was the CZUE. And I said that the incredible experience made us realize how amazing sharks are and that we should protect them instead of fearing them. So we were literally really diving with the sharks, and instead of being, fearing, we were just overwhelmed with excitement. And we also had learned, the different behavior of sharks and just a different view of how sharks really do behave, and that they're not just monstrous as how we think they are. So it was a very, really eye-opening experience to really know how these animals really behave. And the experience encouraged me to, this is Zuzi Lempanza, who was also there. So she said that the experience encouraged her to be brave and to overcome any fear that she might face in life. So I think she was very empowered with, being there and doing that full experience. I remember when we were going inside the water and inside that little ship thing, and I just thought that I was really, just that experience on its own, I was already done. I was already done with the day. It was enough excitement on its own. Even before getting to a point where we went inside the water, that alone again was another experience. But the time we had these about 12, not 15 ragged sharks underneath, that was another experience. So it was like, I don't many days in one day and a lot of experiences in one day. So yeah, and I think all of this is made possible through, being a part of these networks like EEPAN, getting exposure and getting these experiences that you never thought as a Black person, Black young individual, that you'd be able to go inside the water and let alone swim with sharks. So I think we really, really did enjoy the experience, and we did learn a lot, and we have now a different view of the ocean and what actually goes on in there. Can I have the next slide, Margaret?
Yes, it's a video, but I think it gives, if everyone is happy, we can play it. It's not long, and it gives a very good idea of the boats. It's just some people have seen it in the nature journaling group. Siziwe, you said maybe we shouldn't do it. Must I go ahead? Can
I
go
think you
ahead
can
and
go
play?
ahead, Margaret, because it's
Okay.
a short video.
We do have enough time.
Thank you.
So that was us inside the what do you call this? the boat, we were making our way to the reef. So that's like 5 kilometers away from shore.
Yeah, in that area.
And then we spotted some whales. I think I was holding on to dear life because I just didn't want to fall off. And these are the sharks that we swim with. And that is everything. So that's about all that happened to that day. And I think I'll hand it over to Smusi because she did some nature journaling just to, you know,
about
the day. Thank you.
We can see you,
Sorry. Yeah, so what we have here is a little sketch that I did. I guess this is going to be my first nature journal entry, nature journaling entry. Yeah, so I decided to do the moment when we saw like the the flag tip sharks. So yeah, it was a surreal moment, you know, seeing a bunch of them. I think there were like 12 of them. At first there was one and then two, and then suddenly we were like surrounded by these black tip sharks. And so I thought it was gonna be like a good thing to journal as like my first entry. So as you can see here, I tried to make it look like it's under the water, under the sea, with the blues and stuff. And then yeah, we have the sharks. Yeah. Okay. Can I head it over?
I'll do the next one.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway,
Yes, please, the next slide, Margaret.
there.
Please don't laugh at my drawing, everyone. I was just trying to express myself here. Yeah, when I started, okay, firstly, before speaking about this picture, when I started nature journaling, like when I started hearing about it, and I remember when I was so like I wanted to make everything perfect. Like I remember I wanted all my drawings to be neat, tidy, and perfect. I thought nature journaling was about beautiful sketches. But then I remember Margaret and Cati did give me like insights on how on what nature journaling is all about. They did like make me understand that it's not about like pretty pictures, but it's a way of processing feelings, like the way you feel. And yeah, it's a way of making things it's easier for you to process, because this experience brought in a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. So nature journaling has helped us to actually process all those emotions in a paper that will that will be something that will always be reminded of, like even in future, even after years, we'll always come back to these pictures and then realize that this was something. So in this in my sketch, in my beautiful sketch, I was actually trying to sketch that moment when we were sighting the humpback whale. I remember Sibusi was sitting next to me, and because we did not wanna like we were scared that we would fall. Then Sibusi was holding me, and then she was pointing at the humpback whale, and she was like, "Oh, look!" And it was splashing on the water. And when I turned, I was like, "Oh!" And everybody, it was just a moment, like a very blissful moment that everybody screamed. I remember that before we even saw. Okay, so they gave us a very warm welcome. Like, we were like, oh, they are welcoming us warmly in this space, in their environment. So it was our first time seeing them, as I wrote here. So it was the first time seeing a humpback whale like live. We always see them in books and in TV. Yeah, so this was one of the biggest highlights for us. And yeah, this is where Sibus was like, oh look guys, and then we screamed our lungs out, and everyone was so happy. And Melissa did mention earlier that this moment was like, okay, maybe we are done for the day, but little did we know that we were gonna be swimming with the black tip reef sharks. So this whole experience was just inspiring, and it just sparked interest in most of us to actually take our studies further, even studying up more about the marine, because we realized through this experience that sharks are very amazing animals. Like, they are an amazing animals that needs our protection. And one of my takeaways from this is that it is exposing people in these spaces really is an easy way of encouraging an interest of conservation to them, because had we not went to snorkel with Zandi, I don't think we'd understand the importance of conserving these special species. Thank you. Sorry for taking too long.
No, I think you forgot to say that this is Zandile with her blue hair.
Yes, I was trying to, yeah. This is Zandile, guys.
Thank you. Thanks so much
Thank you.
and to Zuzile, even though she's not here today. I'm going to stop sharing and then enable Cati to share. And yeah, I hope that was as exciting for everybody else as it is for us to recount that experience. And the nature journaling really just brings it home. And that's been one way of saying, like, how did you feel? You know, when the video was also beautiful because you could see that deep dive and that the sound in the ocean was so different. So while Cati is getting herself ready, perhaps if you have some questions to ask Siziwe or Sibusi or Melissa, please go ahead or type it into the chat so that we can process it, and Cati will start sharing and do the next presentation.
Even if you have a similar experience to share with the youth, that also would be awesome.
Are you good, Cati?
I have to unmute to the video. Can you hear me?
Perfectly. I can.
Okay.
Everybody
Good.
else?
Can you see my screen?
Started sharing, yes.
Okay. And can you see the presentation?
I can. Is everybody else able to?
Yes, we can see it.
Thanks, Nick.
Greetings, Molweni, Sanbonani, Namaste, Salam Alaikum. It's really a privilege and wonderful to be here, and breathtaking to come up from the deep dive and to have a chance to hear Siziwe and presenting, and to see the nature journaling entries. That was really special. So I just want to do a time check with Margaret. Margaret, how much time do I now have?
We are on 14:12. So, Cati, you've got your
Plenty of time.
20 minutes that we agreed on. So relax.
Okay.
We look forward to the ride. Thank you.
It's going been quite a ride. So it's really exciting to start already having seen 2 fantastic nature journals and entries, and the place I had thought to start in fact experience of the WESSA youth group, and with Siziwe, and which speaks, I think, so directly to the mission of EEPAN, and something I wanted to pick up on. I'm going to go fairly quickly, but I did want to just put how nature journaling fits into the context, even though I think they've already covered it. So you have probably a bit of a sense of the 2 issues that were the 2 broad areas we're covering at the moment, because you've already had an introduction to those and why they would be so relevant. But there's 2 pieces of research that I think really connect those, and not but those direct experiences that we've just spoken about, and validate those at a research level. And the one is a meta-study, which is a study of a large number of studies on connection and connection to nature are more likely to engage a range of pro-environmental behaviors, including conservation of energy and water, anti-consumerism, pro-environmental activism, and financial support for environmental organizations. And I think it was just so powerful to hear the message coming through about, if we had not had this direct experience, we would not feel the same way about marine conservation and advocating for that. And that message just has come through so clearly. So how does nature journaling fit into that as part of the nature connection? And what makes that up in, if we're looking at this beyond the talk and global, the Great Southern BioBlitz, and the elements that have been identified are the contact, so that direct experience, emotion, so that excitement and overcoming the fear and making meaning and having compassion, which were all so, it's the whales and the sharks and overcoming that fear. And the latter mediated by engagement with natural beauty were predictors of connection with nature, and yet knowledge-based activities were not. So learning about what's happening with the shark nets or how terrible things are happening to the whales don't affect people in the same way as going out and actually having a relationship with those, I want to call them beings, but I think you'll understand what I mean. And that comes from, so I've got the research studies for anybody who's interested in that. And a very powerful tool, a very useful tool for being able to make that nature journaling connection and to take it to a deeper level. And we've looked at nature journal entries, talked about a nature journaling process. So I'm going to just go into that a little bit more deeply. Margaret has given me a guideline that questions would be dealt with afterwards. So I may pause every once in a while because my tendency is to ask, does anybody have any questions? And so if you see me go, it's because I'm stopping myself from asking you if you have any questions. So nature journaling is hand recording your observations, your thoughts, and your feelings in response to nature by hand on paper. And what that does is it slows you down. And as you slow down, you relax, you notice more, and you care more deeply about nature, including people. And speaking to the access, it can be done by everyone, everywhere. It's incredibly flexible. It can be done with no rules. There's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way. There are only tools and sharing of those tools. So in speaking to EEPAN's mission, or what you're trying to do, whatever the right words are for that. We could go into that some more for anybody's interested at a later date, but it's especially great for education, action, and advocacy by creating these nature connections. Sorry, my screen is partly hidden, so that's no good. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is go into some of the details now, the nitty-gritty of what does nature journaling bring. And one of the things it does is, and one of the things that helps you in nature journaling is to have a purpose, because the purpose gives you focus. One of the purposes you can have for nature journaling is just for general relaxation and well-being. It's always fun, no matter what you choose as your purpose. And it doesn't have to have just one purpose, it can have multiple purposes. But here are some of the things that seem relevant for this afternoon. The focus that we'll be looking at is on skills such as observing and reporting, and identification, including identification as a key to learning about species, groups, habitats, and ecosystems. Excuse me, and making observations for citizen science platforms like iNaturalist. We're going to look at noticing nature and features. And I just want you to take a look at the image that's on the screen. I hope that it shows up clearly on whatever device you're looking at, but there's a mirror that's showing the underside of a mushroom, kind of fungi. And if you want to be able to know what kind of a mushroom or fungi something is, you need to get views of the top, the side, and underneath as a minimum. And if you don't carry one around already and you have any interest in understanding things about fungi, carrying a mirror around is a nice add-on to your nature journal or field kit. And it works even on really tiny, tiny mushrooms and fungi. So yeah, it's just a fun thing that's a practical tip to throw in there. So let's see. So actually doing nature journaling, how do we nature journal? So there's a process that we go through. I'm not going to go into, we're not going to have a workshop on how to nature journal, but there's a process that I find has helped me to be able to be more effective in my nature journaling and to enjoy it better. It's adapted from John Muir Laws, who's called Aka Jack because everyone calls him Jack. This is the whole process from being prepared, which is important, but we're not going to touch on today. Arriving, which is not just physically showing up, but also, and I'm smiling at you, Megan. This is something we do whenever we're nature journaling together, even when we're doing it on WhatsApp texts, is to mentally and psychologically arrive. So get more quiet. It's a mindfulness kind of exercise, which is important for our own observation skills and effectiveness, but it's also important for wildlife and the place around us to get used to our presence, and helps us also in being effective and enjoying our experience in recording and reflecting. After we've gone through the process, we have with us, once we're done, we have nature journal entries. We're going to focus a little bit more in the next few slides on observing and recording. So nature journaling has some tools for observing and recording that go beyond documenting with the camera. And for observing, we use something we called prompts. So the beginnings of a sentence that get your brain tuned into thinking about, I notice. And it's very much based on, I notice things with my senses. Getting your curiosity piqued, I wonder. Associations, it reminds me of. And I feel. What are the feelings? And that brings in your being as a whole person, which is also we found to be very important and very helpful. And then for recording, we've got 3 points: using words and numbers and pictures. And as Zizwe said, it's not about pretty pictures or having art. It's not about the art. You can do art, but it's not about the art. It's about getting images that help you by just having put them on the paper to remember and to understand. So we understand and learn by putting an image on the paper. Okay. The image in the center is what a nature journal entry might look like. And this is another example. You've already seen 2. What should you always want to have in a nature journal entry? I don't know whether this will show up, is a date and hopefully a time, and always a place, a location. If you're taking photographs where you have a GPS setting on, then you can get a GPS location from there. If you don't, you may want to have enough of a recording of where you are in a place to be able to go back and enter a GPS setting. One of the things about nature journaling that it brings for both observing and recording is that you can record on paper information that devices cannot. So you can do smells and sensation, like stickiness. You can do sounds, and you can record information that your camera will distort, including colors and proportions. And you can put things together in a compilation that can help you to understand something that separate images don't do for you. And we won't go into the details of that, but anybody who's interested, it's one of the things nature journalists love to talk about and to do. Okay. Let's see. Let's see, we are now on, so we've observed, we've arrived, observed, recorded, and now we're going to reflect. And you can reflect on a number of things. We're going to look at what we've been observing and what's recorded on the page. And it's very useful, particularly if you're going to be using your observations of what's recorded on the page for iNaturalist or citizen science to check for accuracy, completeness, clarity, and have you got views captured and details that might be useful for identification. If you go back and you check a reference and you see that what you've written down or noted is different than the reference, please do not change what you've written down. You can make a note that it is different, but what you saw, what you recorded, is what you observed. The field guide only, or that reference only covers a small piece of reality. And what you saw, what you observed, what you noted is what you noted. And if you made a mistake, that's okay too. It's also helpful to sort of write up a summary if you like that, but we won't go into the details of that. Okay. And one of the things that I found has really kept me going with nature journaling is what it can connect with. Stewardship is something that's important to all of us here. And for those of us who are also love creative expression, the data and information that we have in our nature journals and from our photographs or other recordings is inspiration for creative expression. Oops. Okay. So it's not just me. There is the author of a book, Everybody Counts, Karen Cooper, who made a statement that I found really, I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to read it out in case you read it easily. To have a just and sustainable world, we need to adopt a new cultural norm in which being a responsible person on this planet means we observe our surroundings with intention, like you do, and that we share what we see, hear, smell, find. That we as a network of people and devices become a network taking the pulse of the planet. So start talking about citizen science, and there are many platforms for citizen science. The one I have that I use is iNaturalist, and I was introduced to Adley's son, who I think many people in Durban will know. It was at Palmy Nature Reserve, which I hope everybody who's in Durban or anywhere close to Durban knows about. It is a very, very special place. And it was in on the 4th of February with my husband Yusuf and I were on a walk, a group walk at Palmy Nature Reserve. And there was this flower, and nobody in the group recognized it or had ever remembered seeing it before. So Son takes out a camera, her phone, takes a few photos from different angles, and comes up with the genus name, Ceropagia. And there was this app she had, iNaturalist. And it turns out, yeah, I was hooked. iNaturalist became a new community and home for me. And that was my first entry into iNaturalist. So iNaturalist has a lot of different pieces to it. And there's a lot of common ground between iNaturalist and nature journaling. So on the one side of your screen, you'll see there's iNaturalist, which has a circle with observations of identity and identification. And you can do that either through the app or on the website. The website also has the projects that Margaret was talking about. It also has a forum with many, many, many hundreds, if not thousands of threads to discuss anything you might like. And then there's a person off to the side with an NJ, it's a nature journal that's supposed to be a little notebook. And I don't think you can actually see it, there's a pencil there. So the common ground we have is that we make observations and we make records of those. Okay. And so in those various ways, we can contribute to citizen science by sharing our observations, including information from our field notes. We can share our questions and bring our diverse perspectives to ways of thinking as well, because this doesn't just end there. It goes into and is used widely in research and biodiversity management and planning and understanding that addresses climate change and resilience. Okay, so in terms of the specifics of the observations and records, observations are all life or evidence of life. iNaturalist has a strong preference for wildlife, although there is some, there are some changes to that more recently and some provision for that. They do not want humans, and especially not dead humans. And that is for cultural reasons, that this is a global community. iNaturalist was started in the US. It is now the largest biodiversity database source of information anywhere in the world. So all forms of life. It doesn't deal with clouds or sky. There's many other databases that deal with smaller pieces of information, but nothing that deals with all forms of life. It also deals with landscapes, which is something we'll look at very briefly later. And then in terms of records, everything needs a date, everything needs a time, and then everything needs a location. Locations need to have a variable accuracy. So when I moved from KZN to Cape Town, Tony, if you're in the audience, you put me right very quickly that in the Western Cape, particularly in areas where fynbos was prevalent, that the accuracy has to be within 4 meters, because that is how the biodiversity works here. And it was a great learning experience for me. For both nature journaling and, so moving on, so the types of records then can include photos and audio recordings. You can also, for iNaturalist, use photos of journal entries. And for both nature journaling and for iNaturalist, the more information, the better. And in both, there's space for personal and creative expression. Let's see. So I am going to get to a point where I'm going to start moving a bit more quickly. The slides will get much shorter after this one. So why I love nature, iNaturalist, is that names, all different sorts of names, including scientific names, are keys to learning and understanding. iNaturalist has a place for projects of every description, including everything from what's happening in a tiny, tiny place like Margaret said, your particular home, your particular place, and allows the integration of field notes and creative expression. And it also, thirdly, allows for the providing of information for questions that have not yet been asked. So every observation, if you feel that an observation is of interest to you, you're encouraged to post it. And field guides. For example, there is no field guide for lichenized fungi for South or Southern Africa. But there is a project for fungi and lichenized fungi of South Africa. There are ideas for things for which there are no field guides at all. For instance, bryophytes of Southern Africa. And there is no field guide for moss or friends. Palmate Nature Reserve, once again, Sun started Palmate Nature Reserve, as Margaret has done for her home. There is a biodiversity census based on historical records, and they're encouraging people to add the current records there. And then something that I don't think enough people know about, and that is that ecosystems are endangered. There are ecosystems that are endangered, habitats that are endangered. And we need to document those and understand them in order to protect them. And while we're taking observations of particular organisms, we can also be including observations of landscapes. And if you look at this map, the lightest areas are the areas that are under to virtually not documented at all. So looking at that, if you get on iNaturalist, can you help to fill the gaps? I think it's a fascinating challenge. In terms of nature drawing and, nature journaling, and for those who are not taking photographs, this is an entry for which there is no photograph. It's by Nature Journaling South Africa member, Kim. And I'm afraid, Kim, I can't say your surname, Von Veen, from Nature Journaling Cape Town. And this was accepted at a research grade level for a Cape Battis. She's got a haiku in it. She's got a map. She's got a little landscape drawing. She's got a lichen. She's got a lot going on in the page and a beautifully done artistic presentation. And it's on iNaturalist as a valid observation. And that's a project that you can join and add your observations to if creative expression is part of what you want to be doing. Then started this year and will be going on annually is the Global Geo Art Blitz that also encourages creative expression. And I'm about 5 minutes away from done, Margaret. Is that okay?
Wonderful. Thank you, Cati.
Okay. So the Global Geo Art Blitz takes the sort of invitation even wider. So they are explicit about poetry and music and any form of artistic expression. It has a window, a time window. This year was 21st to the 29th of July. I don't know what the dates are for 2025. We were quite excited at Nature Journaling South Africa that including somebody who we have a connection with as a network in Namibia, that we managed to get a few entries in from South Africa. And you can see that in terms of nature journaling, because this was largely a nature journaling network, the continent is, and the Southern Hemisphere, the global South, is much less represented. And then Megan, who is here, is our textile artist of note, really, really inspired by what she does. And this is one of her entries of ants herding aphids on a scarlet salvia. And she put in a piece of textile art as her contribution. And it just really, it was such a inspiring and lovely thing to see there. Then our very own Margaret Berger, who brought the biodiversity of all sorts of things, including things she had not intended to include. So we were learning as we went, but just some really beautiful entries. And you can see again another a different kind of nature journal entry that is once again full of information, full of learning, full of interesting views and ideas. And then this is a few of mine, and I put in, not because it's me, but just to show you that the one on the top is about the African penguin, because we're focusing on the pending extinction by 2035 if we don't act. This one is about the one sort of in the pencil and pen is about the Cape dwarf chameleon, and there are conservation challenges facing the Cape dwarf chameleon and other dwarf chameleons. And then Princess Flay wetland as a protected biodiversity area is within Cape Town and the Western Cape holds a very special historical advocacy and activism history that is one that I think is not talked about and not shared enough as a story. So those were 3 different ways of getting a story told to people who wouldn't normally be in activist or advocacy circles. So this is coming very much to the end now. Nature journaling, in nature journaling, and particularly nature journaling nature journaling South Africa, we think a lot about access to nature and about the history of division and the effects of apartheid and colonialism. So for us, it's really important to see how the low tech of pencil and paper can be a way to help people to reconnect and to empower people. So nature journaling does that because you don't need the smartphone. You can hand record the information that you need. And as you've seen, those journaling entries can be accepted as observations for a citizen science platform that then has the most observations used for research of any citizen science network, the citizen science platform. And we can help to lower the data divide that contributes to the access issues by taking photographs and photographs of nature journal entries and then using public internet access points like libraries and looking at strengthening libraries in that way. So I just want to leave you with a few tips. One is that something obvious, the world contains infinity and it's overwhelming. You have an empty page, you have a pencil, what do you start with? And whether it's iNaturalist and what you photograph, or whether it's your paper and pen, it's the one thing at a time, the thing that gets your greatest interest. And here, projects and purpose are your friends. So when you have iNaturalist as a project in your nature journaling, and you know you want to add things there, that helps you to get your focus. And if you know you want to do that, there is more information we can share on that. All of these things are skills that you won't have when you start, or that you won't have to the extent that you may want them, and they will develop with use. Some of those will develop very quickly, others may take time. And then just the last thing, iNaturalist has culture. It has a culture, and it has many cultures. There are community guidelines. I'm going to skip over this, Margaret, now, just to say that the one thing is assume people mean well. And if you want me to go back to that, I will. This is a little bit about us. And I think, unless anybody who's part of Nature Journaling South Africa wants to say anything else, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Cati. That was awesome. I've put the PDF from NJSA and yourself into the chat, just explaining what NJSA is. And this last slide has also assisted in just joining if you want to. And it's very much about, like we said earlier, what EEPAN is about networking. And it was lovely that it came up repeatedly and that all these threads that we have been talking about are here and we can connect them. Pandora, do you want to add something?
Yes. Margaret, on behalf of EEPAN, I just want to thank you and Cati and the WESSA youth so much. We had a really super webinar. I think we will open for questions, but because we want to be very good sticklers for time, those who would like to leave now at our designated time are very welcome to do so, and do join us again next month. But I'd like to open for questions for those who would like to stay on a little bit, if that's okay with everybody. And Margaret, can I ask you to field those questions?
I will try with the team. I've got Megan here and Katie, and yeah, one or two people have dropped off. So thanks for saying that. We set out that it was a sort of a lunch hour, and anybody who needed to leave could do so. And there is a recording, but if someone wants to ask for the recording rather than just, we have a website, and Nature Journaling also has a website. So any questions, I'm just going through. There were not too many. There was a lot of praise for the penguins, comments from me on my learning curve. That I
Can we put the iNaturalist website and the essay journaling website in the chat? The links there.
I'll put the websites in, unless somebody else can keep the conversation going.
Are there any questions, or even just comments? That was a really, really fascinating presentation, Katie. Thank you very much for sharing. How many people are doing nature journaling in South Africa?
So we don't know, but Nature Journaling South Africa is we're a community. We're not an organization. So the people we know about who are signed up on either part of our WhatsApp chats are probably about 60 people. 60, yeah, about 60 people, I'd say. And then we have a mailing list that's about, I don't know, about 80 or 100 people. But we don't even know whether those people are in South Africa or not. So it's not big, and it's, whenever we mention it, it's not widely known. And the people who do know about it are generally people who are part of, are sort of involved in art activities, or who are very connected to internet sort of hobby kind of thing. And for us, the interest is to get you always have the most interesting communities when there's diversity, when you have people coming from all different ways of looking at the world. And if you read about our history and our journey so far, that's what we strive for. So it's small. It's really very little. It's not widely known. Sorry, long answer.
No. I think, Pandora, the comment in the chat from Paddy. One interesting aspect of iNaturalist and nature journals is that you can repeat observations so as to record how nature changes with time. But if you research nature journaling, it is global, and there are learning curves that happen depending on where you want to focus. Megan?
So time and change is our theme this month at Nature Journaling. So we just ask people when they're observing anything about time and change to upload photos to the WhatsApp chat or, anywhere on social media, and then we make little collages to inspire each other. So that was just really great that time and change comment came up. Thank you.
It also reminded me of, I think it's Mary Jo Hoffman and Bethel Burton podcast on instead of having 4 seasons, we should look at 52. So each week is a micro change.
Part of an annual calendar.
Yeah. So I do think that the takeaway is that you deepen your connection to nature, and that's the starting point, I think, for all of us. Katie, did you want to add?
I didn't want to cut you off, Margaret.
No, I'm done. I did put the PDF in the chat, and I also added the design.
So the thing that's I found to be really fascinating about nature journaling is that it can be whatever you decide you want it to be. And so in looking at it, what it means here in the context of, okay, so we're framing it within, we want people to get involved in the Southern BioBlitz, right? So because we want that, we're going to focus very much on iNaturalist and sort of, so you're focusing a lot on that piece of it. And there are all of these ways that it comes in terms of what you might do personally. And if you're interested in vegetable gardening and you are taking care of crops for a living, as in, this is what I live off of, you know, this is my food for my household. And if you are a birder, and if you are somebody who is living in different classes, so if you have a lot of leisure time, and if you go and look internationally, what you will see is people who have a lot of leisure time, and that dominates the international nature journaling world greatly. And I think what we want to do in South Africa is to say, we can do it even if you don't have a lot of leisure time. We can build this into our life. And I think that what the WESSA youth have done over the years has showed us that you can have a notebook with you and in 5 minutes pull it out and do something in that moment that is just really meaningful for you. So anyway, sorry.
No, I just wanted to add that what we've done is we've combined it. We haven't given it a space on its own as WESSA Youth and when we get together. But we are starting to move in that direction. So what we've been doing is we're saying, okay, we've got Enviro Week under EEPAN, we've got a sports day and a cleanup, and there's nature journaling. So that's what we've been doing. But I can see that a lot of it's being driven by a few of us who are very passionate about this. But we want to make it more its own activity. The WhatsApp access is very simple. And we do it under the guidance of Cati because of how she is able to include and just make us all feel very comfortable in the space. So we just get together for an hour and we say, okay, this is the theme. Let's join, greet, settle down, and then we come back and you can share if you want to or not. So you're very welcome to join there are a few WhatsApp groups. So that I think is also an area that needs a bit of explanation. That the stewardship to Cati grew out of the nature journaling. And that's a strong stewardship group. But maybe you want to be in the just journaling group, or you want to be in the group that gets together for the weekend. So it's diverse and it allows for easy access. And you can do writing and poetry if you prefer. So that's, I think we can end it there unless Megan or everybody else who's still in the room. Thank you, Paddy, for staying the mile. We can come to the South Coast. Paddy asked, he was there. I can see there's something budding because Paddy came to the International iNaturalist online webinar the other day and asked the question about geology and rocks. Paddy? And he was told, no, you can't submit observations of fossils. That's what it was. He'd been to the Mazamba coastal area and photographed lots of fossils. So the fossils are not, am I correct, Paddy?
Yeah, the response was that they don't mind if it's dead, but being buried is a little bit going too far.
Yeah,
I think that's fair enough, because it is a special field, but it's one that a lot of people are interested in. But you do need to be careful when you're creating a database that you don't overdo it and bury yourself in too much data.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can thank all our contributors. So thank you to
Thank you very, very much, Margaret. You especially, you spent a huge amount of time preparing for us, and the WESSA youth, Melissa and Sibusiswe and Sizizwe, and Cati, to have you on today's webinar was really super. Megan, thank you for joining too. Lovely to see Ella and Paddy for your contributions. And we hope to see you in a month's time. We'll advertise on our group, and I hope you have put your emails in the chat, and we'll pick that up. Melissa will help to update our database. Margaret, thank you. Would you like a last word?
I'm just very glad that it's done and dusted, quite frankly. It's not all fun. It's quite stressful. Just making sure that you've got the internet, that everything works. This was quite a heavy one because we combined 3 sessions into one. But we really did want to promote the GSB. We put it onto, WESSA put it onto social media, but we definitely didn't want 200 people. So I'm very happy to see the quality of the group, the quality of the questions, and the stalwart nature journalists and the support. Thank you, Pandora. Sorry we missed Lucy. We know she's working.
I think that this is the beginnings of some new networks for nature journaling and for iNaturalist, and I think we should schedule in maybe another quarter or so, another, even if it's a sub-webinar, to keep the interest going. Yeah. Cool. Thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thanks all. Go well.
Bye-bye, Megan. Bye-bye, Cati, Paddy, Ella.
Bye, Ella.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Margaret.
Bye.
Sizizwe and Lisa.